Hello and welcome to episode 23 of our video podcast. After making his debut for FC United in Manchester this past Saturday, we chat with on-loan midfielder Josh Hmami about his experiences at the club so far.
Josh, whoever said time flies wasn't joking. It seems like 5 minutes and I was talking to you about signing for the new Saints, and here you are, on loan of course at FC United. How did that go on Saturday, because you made your debut?
Yeah, time flies, doesn't it? You know, I've been here nearly 6 months now, I think, at TNS. I've loved every minute, but you know, I need more game time. So in order to do that, my agent sorted out a loan move, and it's FC United. So that's the next step for me, and I'm looking forward to it. Managed to get some game time on Saturday, made my debut. You know, the fans were great, the atmosphere, and I loved it. You know, I can't wait to get started and play more games.
Well, we were following you on Twitter, and every time you were mentioned, we retweeted it on the TNS account. What was the difference, if any, albeit in the few minutes that you played, in that league compared to the JD Welsh Premier League?
Yeah, well, for starters, it's grass, so we don't play an Astro over there, but the pitch wasn't great at all. You know, it was full of bobbles and it wasn't great, but because of that, the ball was just booted long, and you know, it wasn't the best game to play football, and it was more of a battle. But you know, you adapt to whichever game you have to play in, and you just get on with it, really.
And although you're still training here at Park Hall in the week, FC United do train a couple of nights, so you've been there with the lads. How are you fitting in with the squad?
Yeah, I'm fitting great. The lads are all great with me. You know, I went on my first day, got introduced to all the lads. One of them, I know two of them actually used to play here, so I know they came up to me and started talking about that. So yeah, they've all been great with me and fitting well, and you know, hopefully just play more and get used to playing with them.
It's a small world, really, football, isn't it?
Yeah, really small. And like I said, two lads used to play here as well, so you know, that's good for getting to know the lads and getting used to like speaking to them and everything. So yeah, it was good.
And Josh, you have two massive supporters. They were there on the day, Mum and Dad.
Yeah, of course, they go everywhere with me. Like you said, they're my biggest fans. They support me through everything I do. They try to come watch me as much as possible, and now that I've gone on loan to FC United, it's more local, so it's easy for them to come watch me instead of going to you know, far away in Wales or whatever. It's a lot easier for them to come watch me, and yeah, they've done a lot for me, and I owe them a lot as well. And
you have a number of games through to the end of the season. Now that you've made your debut, albeit as a sub, I guess you want to make the starting lineup and be a regular right the way through.
Definitely, I'm just waiting for that chance, you know, to start, and I know I'm sure it'll come, but whenever I do get the chance, hopefully I'll take it, and like I said, just impress the coaches and the fans and my teammates as well, most importantly, and play well and take it from there.
Josh, thank you for your time today.
No problem. Thanks, Rev.
All the very best at FC United for the rest of the season.
Cheers.
Changing course now, we're back at the venue. We speak with facilities manager Matt Lee, who brings us up to speed with everything that's coming up in the coming months.
Matt, it's always good to look back. It seems like an eternity ago now, just a couple of weeks though, the Christmas period. How did that go for you and the venue staff?
Brilliant, yeah. Still recovering a little bit, but really fantastic. We had some brilliant nights here. Our party nights went really, really well, better than we actually imagined. Everybody seemed to have a really good time, and all the feedback we've had about the food and the experience they had on those nights was really positive, so something to build on next year again. We're going to see what else we can do to make it bigger and better, but fantastic, everything we seem to have done over the Christmas period. We're really chuffed.
Not just looking back though, but we're here to look forward. Lots of activities planned for the venue. Let's start off with the playgroup.
Yeah, playgroup on a Wednesday morning. So we've got a new playgroup leader, Callie. She does a fantastic job with the children, you know, really keeps them occupied so as the mothers can sit and chat and see what's happened the previous week, and also to plan the week ahead for them, because it's always difficult with little ones. But yeah, 9 o'clock on a Wednesday morning, so you get squash, a hot drink, some toast as well. So really good for the children, and the kids love it. You know, they come and have a good time. They go in a soft play, have a run around. Callie plays some games with them, so I think everybody enjoys it, the parents and children alike.
And we think that the first team have a short, close season when they end one campaign and come back for training. But the Monday Night League, that's incredibly short. Finish in January and back a couple of weeks later in February.
Hey, no rest, is there, Rev? You know, we like to keep these lads on their feet. So finishing on the 21st of January this season. Seems to have only been a couple of weeks ago we started, but yeah, 6 months ago we started. So really good season as well. Obviously we've had a team in it as well, and we've performed valiantly, I think is the word, Rev. So the first week of February we've got the new league starting, so if anybody's looking for any football action on a Monday night, come on down and see if you'd like to join in. But it's really good fun, everybody enjoys it. There's some competitive leagues, but there's also the lower leagues are more fun and a bit more relaxed paced, shall we say. Ready for just for us it is.
Well, if it was me, Matt, we'd be looking at a 60s night. That's more akin to my generation, but you're a little bit younger than me. And we have a 90s night coming up in February, but also raising money for a charity.
Yeah, we've got a 90s night on the 23rd of February. Our good friend Nicola Barclay's arranging that for the Mine charity. So another great night ahead, hopefully. We've still got a few tickets available, so if anybody's interested, then give us a shout and we'll put you in the right direction. But yeah, another great night with some great bands in there as well. We've got a Oasis versus Richard Ashcroft event as well, so should be another brilliant night here, hopefully.
And while we're still in February, loves, hugs and kisses all round, we have a Valentine's Day special.
Valentine's Day, yeah. So we're trying to be a little bit different and looking at the other side of Valentine's Day for those singletons out there. So we're looking at having a take me out evening. So I'm going to be Paddy McGuinness for the night. Not sure how good of a Paddy McGuinness impression I can do, but I'll give it a go. So we're looking for contestants, both male and female, to partake in the hopefully fun and games, and should be a little bit different to a normal Valentine's Day for some.
This sounds very interesting. And then into March, perhaps a little bit more serious, Mother's Day.
Yeah, Mother's Day, come on down. We're looking at what we can do for all those loved mothers out there. We're going to be doing some fantastic deals on food and drink. So again, this is the place to be, and we'll make sure you have a really good night.
And talking of food and drink, looking ahead to June, a gin and food festival.
What more could you ask for? Gin and food. It's my two favourite things in the world. So gin and food, it's going to be our first one here. We're going to have some live music. We've got a lot of gin stalls coming, a lot of different gin companies. So try every sort of different gin under the sun. We're going to have some live music. We're going to have a barbecue outside. So it should be a really good couple of days on the 1st and 2nd of June. So come on down and give it a try.
And with the January transfer window reaching its conclusion, we had a chat with our head of recruitment, John Rhodes, to find out more about the scouting process.
You're the head of recruitment at the New Saints, but before we come to that, give us a little bit about your background in football.
So I was originally I went into scouting at Stoke City. I was an academy scout there, so I started with all the younger age groups, working from 7s to 16s. From there I progressed to Wolverhampton Wanderers in a very similar role, and then again in a similar role at Shrewsbury Town, where I became head of academy recruitment for a period of time. Once Mickey Manning, who was the current manager at the time, knew about me, he invited me into the first team fold. They just appointed a head of recruitment to look after first team, so it just the timing was excellent. So it just meant that I could then be a part of the team that was going out and recruiting players, doing opposition reports. And then when Paul Hurst came in, that process continued. Had a little bit more responsibility in the sense that if there was a player that they needed a decision on, I would go out and give them my opinion. And then obviously when Shrewsbury did very well last year, Paul was successful and moved on to Ipswich Town, as we all know. And it seemed as good a time as any for me to sort of look at my role within recruitment. And fortunately I was offered a position here at the New Saints.
And at what point did yours and Scott Rusco's paths cross?
Scott Rusco and I are childhood friends. We're both from the same area of Shrewsbury, both brought up in the same area, so our paths crossed pretty regularly. I'm a little bit older than Scott, not as I look it, but I'm a little bit older. And we sort of played representative football together at younger age groups, towards the under-18s age group, and obviously Scott's career naturally went off in a different plane to mine. I went through the education route. Obviously Scott came through a plane route, but we've always remained very close friends. In fact, his brother was my best man at my wedding last February. So there's always been that sort of close connection. And naturally, when Scott was looking for somebody to maybe come and fulfil that position, we had a conversation, and naturally I ended up here.
So how much did you know about the New Saints before, John? Because your football clubs that you've mentioned are all in the English system.
That's right, yeah. So New Saints I knew an awful lot about. I mean, I was privy to sort of know Scott and a lot of the playing staff prior to coming in. I had dealings with Ian Williams, of course, over various guises, and I knew exactly what the football club was about. I knew exactly how it operated, and actually since I've come in I've found out even more about how things develop and how the process is behind what the first team does, really.
So now to the present day, head of recruitment, obviously a lot of responsibility there. So I guess, John, first and foremost, you have a network of contacts that you tap into.
Yeah, so I've got a network of contacts, obviously, at a lot of English football clubs, and that's by going around and watching various games, and you get to know different people. And to be perfectly honest, you tend to see the same people in those areas. And then from that, I've also met plenty of agents, and again, I have good contacts with various agencies and individuals within those agencies. So you sort of use those networks to your advantage as much as you possibly can, really.
And do you get lots of telephone calls? John, you really need to look at this guy.
Yeah, it can be very, very busy as a scout. It can also be quite a lonely existence because it's you in the car travelling to games. But you do get lots of tip-offs. And that's something that, you know, if you need to do due diligence with and follow up and ensure that tip is reliable or something that we don't wish to pursue at this moment in time, really.
And as well as the leads that obviously you're given by people that you know in football, do you also go out on your own, as it were, just watching random games to see if anyone stands out?
Yeah, and we have a process. So I will watch anything from Unibond League all the way up even into the Championship, and the reason we do that is A, to get a gauge of the standards that are taking place, and B, to look at any possibilities that might be coming out of those clubs, and C, to sort of get those networks developed and actually spread the word about what the New Saints do. Because if you actually go out in the general public, everybody knows who the New Saints are, and actually within football, people are interested about what we actually do. So it's a real positive.
And over time, John, you build up a portfolio, as it were, of individual players, and I guess sometimes from actual signing them to the initial watching them can be a period of months, maybe even years.
Yeah, if you take, Jack Bodnam's the most recent one that's come into the football club. Jack was a player that was flagged to me by somebody that knew him. We then did some remote scouting. So what I mean by that is we did some video scouting, so where we look at his clips, and we've got access to software that allows us to do that. Joe Newton will clip his clips for the manager. I'll do the more in-depth stuff, looking at the actual, the good and the bad and everything else, as we say. And then it's a case of then me picking a game which I can actually go and get my eyes on and see him in person to play, which backs up the opinion that I've already got from watching the clip to see if that is actually true. And on that basis, then I involve Scott in the decision-making process and say, this is a boy that I think would be excellent for the New Saints. Somebody I think you need to get your eyes on, and obviously ultimately then Scott makes that decision as to what the next steps are.
And there is a TNS DNA that runs through not only the first team but also the academy as well, especially the older groups. But when it comes to the first team and you're recruiting players, it's not just a case of he's a good player, he has to be the right one that fits into that DNA.
Yeah, and you'll be aware, and I'm sure a lot of people are now, of the literature that goes around that. I mean, there's a recent book out called Legacy, which was basically to do with the New Zealand All Blacks, and if you read that in depth, it talks about things such as good characters that leave the dressing rooms in a very good state, for example. And without one, you can't swear on here, but obviously there's a policy that they employ, which basically implies that the character of the person, the individual, has to be the right fit. So many moons ago in football, you could take, I suppose, a maverick sort of character a little bit off the scale to a degree. Now it's about integrating those people, and actually we're not just about producing good footballers here, it's about producing good people as well.
Well, you've answered my next question there, John, because that was the one I was going to ask. Because it's not just about what happens on the football pitch for 90 minutes. It's also about what goes on when the lads are together in the dressing room, when they socialise, even when they eat together after training. It's important, I guess, to have that harmony and unity right the way through the system.
It is, yeah. And we look at 4 real key indicators, I suppose. Naturally, there's the technical ability of the player, which is easily seen on a football pitch. Their physical capability, again, which you can assess during a game. Then we'd look at 2 other factors. That's the psychological factor. So, for example, if the team is 1-0 up, what's the attitude like? Similarly, if the team is 1-0 down, does that attitude remain constant, remain the same? Is there a desire to sort of get back into the game? Is there a desire to go and win? Naturally, we want winners at the football club, of course we do. And then there's the social aspect on that. So what are they like away from a football pitch? What's the home life like? How are they settled? And that's we build a picture. And once we have all the information, then we then decide on what the next steps are. And there'll be players that I've got on a database system that Scott won't even know about yet. But that comes in time. So, we have a database probably now that's ever increasing of around, I would suggest at the last count, around 120 players that are on that database, people that I have seen or we have seen.
So those players on the database, I guess you monitor them. Yeah. They could be at clubs already. They could be coming to the end of their contract. So along with other interested parties, you have to then pursue that particular player, I guess, via the agent in many ways.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 ways in which we can do that. I mean, we can go chairman to chairman. So the chairman will speak to the chairman of another football club to express our interest in that player. But we're also very aware that sometimes that information isn't always transcended to the player. So we then will maybe make some contacts with the agent to say, look, this is the scenario. If at any point contractual obligations change or the player is looking to come out of the club at various points, obviously at the end of the contract, because that's the best way to do it, then you sort of make it known that you would be interested in having that conversation. But that's a very targeted list that we would have.
Going to the chairman's an interesting one, because that's obviously at the top with the top in the responding club. So do you have much conversation with Mike Harris on these subjects, or do you have the conversation with Scott first and then it goes to Mike?
Yes, and that's how we would do it. There's always a process. So my role is to identify. I then have that conversation with Scott, and it might be that's the end of it. We might not decide to pursue it for whatever reason. If it's something that we feel we're very interested in, then naturally we would express that to the chairman, and then we let the chairman go and do his thing, which he does very well, of course.
And of course, John, as we speak right now, we are in a transfer window, and I guess it goes without saying, this is a very busy time for you indeed.
Yeah, and emails, telephone calls. I'm having daily conversations with Scott about players. We've got obviously targets in mind potentially, and we just have to wait and see now until the end of the month whether those things come off. I mean, January is a very inflated market. Chairman will naturally put a little bit extra on to make it a little bit more difficult for people, because the majority of them are in contract. So it's their player, so they want to protect their commodity, if you like.
Well, John, thank you for your time today. I know you're very busy. You've given us a wonderful insight into what goes on in the mechanics and the workings of the scouting and recruitment at the New Saints. You do wear a number of other hats as well within the TNS organisation. So, as they say, watch this space.
Thanks, Rev.
That's all for this week, but be sure to check out our website and social media for more news, views and reaction from parkour.